What's going on? My name's Dillon. Welcome back to the channel. And yes, we're back with another episode of the MetaTrader 5 series. Trying to pump out these videos as frequently as possible, at least once a week, so that way we can of course learn MetaTrader 5 and of course a lot of other things that we're doing as part of this channel. Anyway, I digress. Today we're going to be learning trailing stop losses, and we're going to be using the same money management that we looked at last week, which is utilizing the ATR, or average true range, and that is what we're going to be carrying on from last week's video. So again, if you haven't watched last week's video or the rest of the series, recommend watching that. And if you do want to get up to date with the most recent code, then I do recommend going and looking at my GitHub, downloading the most recent version of the MetaTrader 5 series expert advisor that we have. I think it's 5.2, I believe, and then you can carry on from there as well. So what are we going to be learning today? Well, today we are going to be, of course, learning MQL5 position functions, and then using those position functions, what we'll be able to do is add in a ticket number counter. We'll also be able to add in a trailing stop loss based off the same money management that we looked at last week, which is the ATR. And then, of course, we can modify our open trades using the trade.position modify function, again, within MQL5 or MetaTrader 5. So we spoke about this last week, and this is the ATR stop loss. I'm not going to spend any time on it, but notice that we are only going to be focusing on the stop loss today. We're not going to be adjusting any take profit. So that's why I've removed the take profit from the previous slide that we looked at last week, and we're only going to be focusing on stop losses. Now, I'm going to assume that a lot of you know what a trailing stop loss is, because of course you've been following along with my previous videos, and if you're learning how to code, particularly code expert advisors, you'd probably have a bit of experience in trading anyway. So I'm not going to spend too much time in terms of what a trailing stop loss is, but of course what's important just to note how that affects our code is that we need to do a little bit of an if statement, and just to check whether our optimal stop loss, which is our most recent stop loss, is greater than our current stop loss for longs. And if that statement is true, then we want to adjust our trailing stop loss. Now, of course, the opposite for shorts, if our optimal stop loss is less than our current stop loss, well, then we want to be adjusting our stop loss, and that is for our short condition. So if we're making newer lows on our shorts, then we want to, of course, adjust our stop loss to accommodate, assuming that we're using the same money management for our stop loss from when we entered the trade. Now, the way we're going to do this is utilizing some inbuilt functions within MetaTrader 5, and these position functions are going to be very, very useful to be able to, of course, do what we're doing today. Now, the first one is position get ticket, and this takes a type U long, or a long type. And what this will be doing for us is essentially storing our ticket number. If there is any open trades, it stores that within our expert advisor. So then we can, of course, refer to that. And this is going to be very important moving on when we start to utilize MetaTrader 5 for multi-symbol expert advisors. And so from there, we're going to be using position select by ticket. Now, this is a very important function. All this is a Boolean function, or it takes a type Boolean, which is essentially true or false. And what I got there in italics is just the extract from the MetaTrader 5 website based off this function. And this is very important because this makes sure that we are selecting the correct position and we are modifying the correct position based off the ticket number. So when we move forward into multi-symbol EAs, this is a good check to do, just to make sure that we are selecting the right position and we're getting the right parameters. So once we've got the ticket number and we've done our check, the next thing we want to do is utilize the position get. And I've just got ... because there are a few different position get functions that we want to be using. I'll leave a link in the description below just for you to go and refer to the different types of position get functions and what you can call on. But what's important is that we are going to be utilizing the position get function so that way we can get the stop loss, take profit, and the direction of our trades. This is important because we don't have to store all of these different variables within our expert advisor. All we need to do is store the ticket number, and then we utilize those functions and we find what our different position parameters are based off this function, so we don't have to store those variables, which is really handy. Now, the last thing is, of course, once we have all of that and we've calculated and worked out that yes, we want to adjust our stop loss, we can use the trade.position modify function, which essentially will modify the stop loss and take profit based off the ticket number. Now, again, we're utilizing this function for stop losses only because we're using this as a trailing stop loss. So we're not going to be adjusting take profit. So all we need to feed in is the same take profit as what we have in the current trade already open. So these are the resources. As I mentioned, again, I'm going to leave a link in the description for you to go and have a look at. These are very useful resources, very good to familiarize yourself with these. So without further ado, let's go have a look at the code. So this is where we left off last week. As I mentioned, this is version 5.02, which can be found in the GitHub, and this is what we coded up last week. So carrying on from last week, what we're going to be doing is, of course, adding in the trailing stop loss. So first thing I'm going to do is just add in what we're doing today. There we go. So this is going to be version 6.1. And again, once this is all done and the video goes out, you can of course refer to my GitHub, again, link in the description, so that way you can download this exact version. Of course, further patch notes might actually come out where, maybe mistakes might happen, or maybe there might be a better way that we can do things. And of course, I will update the code as we go on, but might not necessarily make a video. So I do recommend actually giving me a follow on GitHub, so that way you can stay up to date as well. So the first thing we want to do is actually make a change to the code to be able to give us or store the ticket number for our trades, and then give us a little bit of a call out, so that way we can know when a ticket is open or when a position is open and what that ticket number is. So the way we're going to do that is add in a little bit of a counter. So we've done these before, and we're going to actually be reading this out to the user within our expert advisor. So first thing I'm going to do is actually add in the global variables, I'm going to add in this new ulong type variable, which is called ticket number. And I'm just going to declare this as 0. Now, what we want to do is actually adjust one of the codes within our, EA, Expert Advisor, so that way we can, of course, fill that ticket number variable that we've just created and fill that with, of course, the ticket number. And what we're going to do is we're going to be changing the process trades open custom function that we have created over here, so that way it returns the ticket number. So that way, if we do open a trade, when our custom function actually runs and that trade actually opens, what we want to do is, instead of actually returning nothing, which this is what this function does, I'll go down here, position trades open. Oh, sorry, it's a Boolean, but it doesn't really return, it doesn't really do much, just returns true or false, which is basically if the expert advisor ran correctly. Really, it should be a void function because we're not even really returning true. Nevertheless, what we want to be doing is, instead of returning a Boolean, what we actually want to be doing is returning that ticket number. So instead of a Boolean, remember that this ticket number is type ulong. Oh, not a capital, sorry, type ulong, and this is positions trades open. So every time we run this, and of course a new position is going to open, we actually want to return to the main code, or the body of our code, we want to return the actual ticket number, which is this ulong variable. So instead of returning true, we're actually going to be returning our ticket number. So I'm going to delete that for now. I'm going to go back up to our main code, which is over here, and we are going to say that when our ticket, when this actually runs, ticket number equals process trades open. Oh, if I can get it in the right spot. There we go. Let me save that. Beautiful. So what we've done is we've declared this ticket number over here, and that again is ulong type. And then from here, when we do open a new trade, which is this function over here, what we're going to be returning is returning the actual ticket number. And so our ticket number will be updated over here. So ticket number equals our most recent trade, whether that's long or short. So what we want to do is, of course, return that in our custom function code, which is over here. And what we want to be doing is just putting in a new variable, and we can do this after the trade opens. So after the trade, so we've closed the previous trade, we've opened the new trade over here. So once that trade is now opened, we want to actually get the most recent ticket number, and I've just created a new variable called ulong ticket. And notice that I'm not using ticket number because I've created a new variable which is separate outside of the global variables. You can use the same one, but you'll just get an error warning. So I do recommend using a different one, and that will be handy to use over here. So ulong ticket equals position get ticket. So that's our first function or position function that we are using. So position get ticket, and this is position get ticket in brackets 0. So this just gets the most current ticket, which of course will be this one because we've just opened it. This gets the most current ticket, which is our most recent one, this one over here, and it just puts it into this variable called ticket. Now, what I want to do is add in some text over here. So this print function, so trade process for current symbol, open order type, which is the order type, whether it's long or short, and lot size, blah, 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 the lot size. The last thing I want to do is add in the ticket, and then this gives a readout to the user that this order has been created for this ticket number, and it just makes sure, oh, sorry, not ticket number, let's go ticket for this ticket. And that just makes sure that the appropriate ticket was created for this particular ticket over here, or position over here. So from there, what we want to do is, of course, return the ticket to main code. Oh, I should say not main code, but to on init. And of course, all we need to do is just return that variable, my goodness, that variable over here. Now let's save that. We've done quite a bit, so I want to go back into MetaTrader 5, compile. I've just compiled that. That's the working file. Just want to make sure I'm compiling the right file. No errors. Yep, that's in there. Beautiful. That's nice. All right. So from there, what we want to do is actually put a call out so that when the user runs the Expert Advisor, the user will be able to see whether there's an open ticket or an open position. So if you recall, we've got a few readouts here using this indicator metrics variable. And what we can do is add in our ticket number that we've just created over here. So what we want to do is add in this string of code, so that way when our indicator metrics variable runs, and that is again the call out for our Expert Advisor, we've got the symbol, last trade or last process, and that's just the time where this Expert Advisor or the the Expert Advisor ran for this current symbol, and that is after a new candle has been received. So that's the time. And then what is the open ticket if there is any open tickets. Now there's one final thing that we need to do, and that is just reset the open ticket. And we can do that over here. What we want to do, let's just clean this up a bit. Let's do that. Cool. So I've just separated out indicator metrics, but what I've got here is added in this new line of code. So all this does is it checks, and this is using the second position function I should mention, which is position select by ticket, and it gets fed in the ulong, which is the ticket number, and that of course is the ticket number that we've of course created. And all this does is checks to see whether the position or the ticket number is correct or essentially is open. And so if the position number, and notice how I've got the exclamation mark, which means that if this is false, this statement is false, then ticket number will actually return 0. So what this does is if, for example, the stop loss was hit or the take profit was hit, that actually sends a signal to our Expert Advisor, or this code tells our Expert Advisor that there is no longer an open position for this particular ticket number. So we want to reset the ticket number to 0. That's essentially what it does. Because if you think about it, and you can of course test this yourself, if you don't put this code in, if the take profit or stop loss has been hit, there's nothing to actually tell the Expert Advisor to reset the ticket number for that particular trade and to tell the user that, for example, position number 2 has actually been closed. So this is actually what that does, so that way it resets if the ticket or if that particular position has been closed, so that way it gets read out correctly over here when there is open tickets. So if there isn't any trades open, then the open ticket will read 0. If there is trades open, then it will read whatever the ticket number is. So I've compiled that. Let's go into MetaTrader, compile. Awesome. Now let's actually have a look and see what this does. So I'm going to open my broker. Make sure I'm on the right one. Perfect. And I've just set the date here to the 7th because I was doing some testing today. During this day, we get a couple of trades. So instead of waiting 7 days or waiting a while for a trade to actually pop up, I've just jumped the gun a bit. But notice before we start, we've got open ticket, which is 0. So hopefully when we get a new position opened, we can see this open ticket, which is the identifier for the particular trade. There we go. It's not going to happen straight away because we need to wait for the new candle to, of course, come in. So what I'll do, there we go. And so the new candle has come in. So then, of course, that new candle function that checks whether there is a new candle runs, and that's where all of this information gets updated. So the open ticket is number 2, and we can see here that open ticket is 2 for this particular trade. And we can see we've got our stop loss and take profit for this long trade over here. Now let's see, again, we haven't added in any trailing stop loss just yet, so it won't adjust, but let's see what happens when the stop loss or take profit gets hit when the trade closes. So notice there, it just got hit. Again, the new candle hasn't run, so we don't actually have a position open just yet. But notice here that it still says 2 again because the function that actually checks whether a new candle has been printed again has not run yet. So there we go. The new candle has just started. So then that expert advisor has run, and then we've got open ticket equals 0. So then that resets the actual expert advisor ticket function over here. Now this is going to be very important moving forward because, of course, now that we've got the ticket number reading correctly, what we can do is adjust our trades. So that's all working properly. Now with that working, what we can do is, of course, adjust our trailing stop loss. So what we're going to do is we're going to first add in an input function, so that way the user of our expert advisor can, of course, toggle whether they want to use a trailing stop loss or not. And again, this is going to come in handy when we do optimization of our expert advisor to see whether our trailing stop loss, of course, works or doesn't work as intended. So in Visual Studio, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to go to over here in our risk metrics, and I'm going to add in a new function, or sorry, variable, which is just an input boolean, and this is just saying, this is saying, is our trailing stop loss, or are we going to be using our trailing stop loss? By default, I've just got it as true, and the variable is called TSL check. So from here, what we want to do is add in a function now, a custom function again, that actually adjusts our trailing stop loss after our trade is already in. So once we've entered the trade, what we want to do is just come in after that and actually check if there is any adjustments that we need to do to our stop loss. So that's what we can do over here. So adjust open positions, trailing stop loss. And what I've done here is I've got an if statement. So if trailing stop loss check equals true, and again, that's that input function. If it equals false, then of course this custom function is not going to run. But if it equals to true, then let's call this adjust trailing stop loss, or TSL function, which takes in the ticket number. We need to feed it the current ATR value, and we need to feed it the ATR loss multiple value. Now, the ticket number, of course, is what we've just done. The current ATR is coming from over here, which of course is from our money management video last week. But this is the current ATR value that needs to be fed into our, of course, our custom function, so that way we can calculate our new trailing stop loss. And of course, we're using the ATR money management with a multiple of the ATR. So we need to feed in the ATR loss multiple. Now, I know that this is a global variable. However, I like to feed in this variable into our function because later on, if we do want to clean up the code and we want to put these custom functions in its own library, then of course we need to be feeding in the appropriate variables so that we can do our calculations. So that's there as well just for now. And that is it. So what we want to do is create a new custom function, and we'll come down to the bottom and we can create it here. Now, This is not going to return anything. All this is going to do is adjust our trailing stop loss to see if we've actually, need to make any changes. If we don't need to make any changes, then that's fine. But this is actually going to return nothing. So that can be a void. Adjust trailing stop loss. And let's do that. And what we're going to be doing is creating a U-long ticket, double, current ATR, and the last one was ATR multiple, and I'm going to call it ATR multi. Now notice here how I'm using a different name to what is in the global variables. Again, I mentioned this before. If you can use the same one, but you're just going to get a warning message. So I've just declared them as separate names, both for the ticket. Instead of using position or ticket number, I've just got ticket. And instead of using ATR loss multiple or multiple loss, I think it was, whichever one it is, I've just got ATR multiple there. And that is going to make up our function. So from here, we're just going to populate our custom function, and we're going to take this step by step. The first thing that we're going to need to do is add in, of course, just to start off, the current symbol, which is the symbol, add in the price, which is, of course, price normalized double, and this is going to be symbol ask. Now, I shouldn't actually use this, just looking at this now. What I should do is, depending on, similar to what we've got here, depending on the buyer order, we use the price ask, and depending on if it's a sell order, then we use symbol bid. So I actually might utilize that instead of using this. So I might make a quick change just on the fly. So I'll come back to that. What we want to do is, the next part is just to make sure, again, it's always good to check this, but just to make sure that we're utilizing the right ticket number. And now, not only that, making sure that we are utilizing the right ticket number, but what this does is saves the appropriate data or the ticket number, so that way when we call the position functions that we're about to use, we're calling the right ticket. So if we've got multiple tickets open, we want to make sure that we're calling on the appropriate ticket. So that function does that, and what we can do is, of course, store our various variables or position variables, which is this over here. So the first one we're going to be doing is position direction, which is a U-long type, and this is utilizing position get integer, and that is the position type. The next one is the double, which is the current stop loss, which is a position get double, and this is position stop loss. And then the same thing, current take profit, and this is position get double, take profit. Now, we're not going to actually be doing any manipulation to the take profit, but we need to actually have this variable so that way when we do trade dot position modify, we are feeding in the right, or well, the current take profit. Because if you don't feed in the current take profit, then the actual take profit will, well, disappear. So you'll see that in just a minute. But from here, what we can do is add in our first, we'll just add in an if statement, and I'll close the bracket off. So we'll add in an if statement. So if the position equals long, and we want to do the same thing if the position equals short, and there we go. And because this is a void, we just want to return, but we're not really returning any, well, we aren't returning anything after that. Cool. So this is going to be the basis of our function. So of course, we've just set up the function so that way we're collecting all the information that we need, so that once we actually go into here and we work out, whether position direction is long or short, we can of course, make sure that we are making the appropriate adjustments for our stop loss. And then of course, if we need to adjust our stop loss, we can of course do that based on whether the trade is long or short. Now, the first thing that we want to do, and I've kind of alluded to this, is actually add in the appropriate price. I'm going to copy in this over here, position price, and I don't actually have what have I done here? Price. I do need to declare it. So I'll do the same convention as what I've done previously. Sorry. So price, well, double price, and I've just got 0. You just do 0.0. And then I've got price over here equals normalize double for the price at the current symbol at the ask. Now I need to do the opposite for shorts. I need to make sure that I'm getting it at the bid. There we go. I actually enjoy doing these because when I talk through it, we find errors like this, which is very important. And I hope you can see the logic that I'm using, because it's very helpful, I think, following along with these videos, actually seeing, you know, the certain things and changes that I might actually do on the fly. So that way we can, you know, all learn from it and learn the processes and the problem solving, I suppose, to work through these problems. So from here, we've got the price now. And what we want to do is now set the optimal stop loss value. And for longs, of course, it's optimal stop loss equals price minus ATR times the current ATR value. And for our shorts, for our shorts, it's optimal stop loss equals price plus ATR multiple times current ATR. Now from here, what we want to do is now check to see whether our optimal stop loss, well, for our longs, is actually greater than our current stop loss, so that if essentially our price is higher than what our current stop loss is, well then, well, not price, but our optimal stop loss is higher than what our current stop loss is, then we want to be moving up our stop loss for longs. Now, of course, the opposite is going to be true for shorts. If the price or our current stop loss, or our optimal stop loss is less than our current stop loss, then we want to adjust our stop loss, because the lower the stop loss, the better, because of course we're shorting. So from there, what we've got our longs. So if optimal stop loss is greater, and then if, so just an if statement, and I need to put my brackets in. Oh my goodness. There we go. So if optimal stop loss is greater than the current stop loss, well, what we want to do is adjust the trade. Now, this is going to be the final piece of the puzzle, and that is utilizing the trade.position modify tool. So I'm just going to do the same for shorts. Add in that function there. Beautiful. Return. I'll just add in some comments, return once complete. And what I might do is just clean this up a bit. 1 second. So set optimal stop loss value. Let's space that out. Space that out. And I need that, of course. Cool, that all looks good. Let me save this. Now, just before we go in to check if it compiles, all I want to do is run through this, excuse me, a little bit quick. So if our stop loss needs to be adjusted for our longs, what this is doing is utilizing that trade.position modify function, which gets fed in the ticket number, the optimal stop loss value, which is of course what we just calculated, so the new stop loss value, and then the take profit that we are adjusting. Well, we're not really adjusting the take profit, so it's just getting fed in the current take profit. And that is why I mentioned we need to actually get the current take profit over here, which we've put in as this variable over here, and we're just feeding that in, because if we have nothing, or if we have this as nil, then it will actually remove our take profit, which is not what we want to do. We just want to be adjusting our stop loss. Now we've used the same function over here. for our shorts. And then the last thing that we're doing is just printing the ticket. And this is the ticket number, for symbol, current symbol. Stop loss has been adjusted to whatever our optimal stop loss is. So this returns nothing, as I mentioned, because it's a void. So it just returns, and then that is where the function will complete. So if it's long, then it gets completed here. And if it's not long, then it skips all of that. And then it goes through this short function, and then it returns, the function returns here once complete. So let's save this. I made a few changes here, but this should still compile. There we go, it's compiled, no errors, no warnings. That's what we like to see. So of course, what we want to do is check if our expert advisor is working. Took me a little bit of time to find a trade where the actual trading stop loss or trailing stop loss actually kind of worked. I have one example. I'll see if I can find another one just after this. But what I want to show you first is the input functions. And we've got here now, use trailing stop loss. And we've got here a trigger so that the user can, of course, toggle whether they want to use that or not. So what we want to do, I've just jumped to the 16th here. We've got a little trade. It only happens on one candle, but you can see that, what happens. So hopefully we can catch it. Notice here that we've got open tickets, which is 0. Which is good because we're just starting off. And so hopefully when this trade opens, we've got a new ticket, which is ticket number 2. Of course, it always starts at number 2. There we go. So we've just entered a new trade. Notice here that our price entered, of course, over here at the candle open. If we make a new higher close or a higher high, then what we can do is, of course, adjust our trailing stop loss, which essentially is how it is calculated. Our take profit shouldn't adjust. So we'll just see that. Let me slow it down a little bit as well, just to make sure we capture everything. And then notice there the little jump that we saw in the charts over here. Well, it might be a little bit difficult to see just on the screen. But what we have here is our slight adjustment. Take profit hasn't adjusted. And if I go into the journal, here we can see ticket number 2 for symbol AUD USD, stop loss adjusted to 0.63, blah, 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 blah. So here we can see that our take profit, our trailing stop loss function actually ran. And then we've got that printout in the journal over here of what has happened there. Now, if I play this through, and we can see here as well, open tickets over here is 0. But if I play this through, this is going to actually get stopped out. And that trade actually gets stopped out. Let's see if we can find another one quickly. Sorry, that was a bit too fast. Let's play this through. Hopefully this is in the right spot and we can play this through and we can see whether this trailing stop loss works. I think this might be a better example. There we go. So we're in a trade now. We've got here ticket number 0 because the new candle hasn't printed. There we go. New candle's printed. And you actually would have seen just then it actually did jump there because we've created a new lower low. So this is a good example because we're testing shorts now. We've got ticket number 2 adjustment should have happened. There we go. There's the adjustment. Trailing stop loss has been adjusted to the price it is now. And notice there, it just adjusted a couple of times through, which is good. And it actually got hit and we have a nice profitable trade. Our money management looks to be working right, about $2,000, $1 off, that's fine. That's just rounding error, but $2,000 of profit over there. Again, because we are trading a 2-to-1 risk to reward ratio where one risk is $1,000 and of course our reward will be $2,000. Now what I just quickly want to show you is what happens when we have our trailing stop loss set to false, which means we're not going to be trailing our stop loss. So now we should see the exact same trade. It will still be a profitable trade, but our stop loss will not be adjusting. So our take profit and stop loss will remain static. There we go. And notice here how it's not adjusting at all. Not adjusting, not adjusting, not adjusting. And there we go. Our trade actually got hit for our take profit. So there we have it. So it looks like our trailing stop loss is actually working. This should hopefully be a relatively quick and simple video, but nevertheless, I generally say this and these always take a little bit longer than first anticipated. However, we're learning a lot, which is the main thing. So again, all the information will be available on my GitHub. If there are any things that I need to tidy up on or maybe fix or whatever, then of course make sure that you you check into the GitHub and make sure you give it a follow so that that way you're up to date with the most recent version of this expert advisor. So with all that being said, hope you enjoyed this one. Hopefully now you can have a trailing stop loss which matches your money management. If you have any questions or the like, please feel free to leave a comment, leave a like, and of course subscribe to the channel. If you've got any other further questions or you just want to connect, I've got a link tree in the description, as well as a link to my Discord server. So then that way we can of course talk there and of course talk with the others within the community. So with all that being said, enjoy the rest of your day. Happy trading, happy coding, and I'll see you in the next one.